Hello, BookTube. Well, I'm sure you've noticed it too, but I have noticed a disturbing trend on this channel this week. Maybe a little bit last week, but this week mainly spurred by that one day that we missed. I'm noticing a disturbing trend towards videos inching closer and closer to an hour in length. You know that's coming, don't you? In your worst nightmares, you know that's coming. The Steve's channel in 2020 will still have 3 uploads a day, but each one of them will be an hour long. And I think we should resist that tendency as much as possible. Yesterday there was an enormously long mail haul. Today I did an enormously long comic book video. Now I have another mail video to do, but only 2 packages. We're just going to try and get this video done very quickly so that we resist the urge to keep doing hour-long videos. So we've got those 2 packages here. We'll see if they're any good. We'll see what we have here. First one is from Yale. Oh, very nice. Oh my. Okay, this comes out in January. Wow. Okay, this is by Sudipta Sen. This is Ganges, the many paths of India's river, of an Indian river. Look at that cover. How wonderful. Oh my. Okay. Originating in the Himalayas and flowing into the Bay of Bengal, the Ganges is India's most important and sacred river. In this book, historian Sudipta Sen tells the story of the Ganges, showing how it came to occupy center stage in the history, culture, and ecology of the subcontinent. Sen begins in prehistoric India, tracing the river's first settlers, its myths of origin in the Hindu tradition, and its significance during the ascendancy of popular Buddhism. In the following centuries, Indian empires, Central Asian regimes, European merchants, the British Empire, and the Indian nation-state all shaped the identity and ecology of the river. Weaving together geography, environmental politics, and religious history, Sen offers a remarkable portrait of the world's largest and most densely populated river basins. Oh my. Okay. Wonderful. Alright, well, this comes out in early January. I am totally on board. That's wonderful. Several of you have pointed out that if I hadn't already told you that I lived for a time in India and fell absolutely in love with the country, especially with the people, with the literature, with the mental life. Several of you have told me that over the course of watching my 8 million videos, if I hadn't told you that, you would still have been able to tell it. Because my face tends to light up. And I am all on board with this. I've spent a great deal of time on the Ganges. So wonderful. Alright, so we're off to a fine start. Oh, what are you doing? You're supposed to be on the floor. Frida hopped up onto the bed in order to chew on these things. Why don't you come around here? Come onto the floor so that your fans can see you. I know it's been a year, but I gotta confess it's still strange to have a dog who can get anywhere. I had for years and years my pointer, Malin Moore, was perfectly able to fly. She could leap anywhere. But she didn't, mostly, because she was very timid. She was a timid dog. And because she liked to stick close to her sister, my fat basset hound Lucy, who couldn't get anywhere, ever. And I'm talking even the places where she was supposed to go. I had to help her up on the bed for most of her life. Even when she was in the prime of health, she still couldn't because she was fat with the stubby little vestigial legs. And then, of course, in the last 2 years of their lives, Malin lost most of the muscle mass in her hind legs, so she had no propulsive force at all. She couldn't get up on furniture at all. She couldn't get down off furniture without falling. And Lucy, of course, when she grew old and stiff and white, couldn't get anywhere. So I spent a long time with dogs who couldn't go wherever they wanted. And this little dog can go anywhere. She springs everywhere. This is really weird. I can find her anywhere. But my number one worry with a smaller dog, that she would be delicate, that I might accidentally hurt her. Maybe I just have to go smaller in order for that to be valid, but this dog is as hardy as the day is long. There's no chance. Even if I did accidentally do something, it wouldn't hurt her. She's as tough as nails. It's wonderful. But anyway, that was our first package. A History of the Ganges River. Fantastic. Now we'll do this next one. It's a big cardboard box, and then we will be done in well under an hour. So what have we got here? Oh, fantastic. Okay. This comes out in the new year. And this is something that I have mentioned. Okay. Fantastic. Oh my. All right. Okay. This is something that I mentioned. This comes out in... oh, no, this doesn't. This comes out in November. This comes out this year. I thought, sure, it was next year. Oh, no, it is next year. The pub sheet says November, but the book says January, and I think it is January. We'll find out together. But one way or another, I was making a prediction about 2019, and every Spider Sense Tumblr that I have is telling me that I might be right, that 2019 is going to be a banner year for historical fiction. I could be wrong. It's still very early days, but this is one of those books that I was thinking of. I don't know. This pub sheet says November, but I think this is... Wait a minute. Okay. Oh, all right. Okay. Sorry. Well, this almost never happens. The pub sheet is for a different book. It's not for the book that it was tucked into. That almost never happens. The pub sheet is for a book that comes out in mid-November called Night of Miracles. By Elizabeth Berg. Okay, so the novelist Elizabeth Berg is coming out with a book called Night of Miracles in November. But the book that we're talking about is by Stephanie Barron, and it's That Churchill Woman. And this does come out next year. And it's about Jenny Jerome. It's about the mother of Winston Churchill. And I know I'm not supposed to be reading 2019 books, but I read a chunk of this already. The copy that was sent to the Christian Science Monitor, I opened it, and a perfect example of whether or not a book is doing its job. I opened it thinking to just dip in and get a sense of it, and the next thing I knew, 25 minutes had passed and I'd read a huge chunk of it. And that's when you know that a book is good. And this is all about... well, let me see if I have a description. I don't have a pub sheet. The right pub sheet. I have a pub sheet for a different book. Wealthy and privileged and fiercely independent New Yorker Jenny Jerome took Victorian England by storm when she landed on its shores. As Lady Randolph Churchill, she gave birth to a man who defined the 20th century, her son Winston. But Jenny, reared in the luxury of Gilded Age Newport and the Paris of the Second Empire, lived an outrageously modern life all her own, filled with controversy, passion, tragedy, and triumph. When the 19-year-old beauty agrees to marry the son of a duke she has known for only 3 days, she instantly swept up in the whirlwind of British politics and the breathless social climbing of the Marlborough House set. The reckless men who surrounded Bertie, the Prince of Wales. Raised to think of herself, to think for herself, and careless of English society, rules, and the new Lady Randolph Churchill, quickly becomes a London sensation, adored by some and despised by others. Artistically gifted and politically shrewd, she shapes her husband's rise in Parliament and her young son's difficult passage through boyhood. And this is all that. This is the whole story of that, told in a tremendously assured historical novel. And when I first read that chunk, I just sat down and I lost myself in it. And when I pulled out of it, I thought, well, who on earth is this person? And then I realized, once I looked her up, I realized that I had fallen for this woman's historical fiction before. She wrote a novel that you should all read, a tremendous historical novel called Jack, 1939, about a young John F. Kennedy in Europe in 1939. Tremendous job. When I should have been that book's harshest critic. I know every meal that Jack Kennedy took during that trip. I know every inch of ground that he covered. I know everything that he thought. I know everything that everyone around him thought. And I went into that book thinking, okay, well, this is going to be a gloss and a glamour fest, and it's going to disappoint, and I'll just have to look to see if it does anything good. And instead, it was tremendous. It was just tremendously good. And I was, unbeknownst to its author, the toughest critic in the world to be won over by that book. And this was just more of the same. This author can do no wrong. This is just, the chunk that I read is just tremendously good. So, unless it stops after page 115 or whatever and just lapses into gibberish, this is going to be tremendous. And it's not the only hint that I've had about historical fiction in 2019 that's like this. This may end up being one of the best such novels of the year. But I'm pretty sure it won't be the only really good piece of historical fiction. So there you go. Well, that was a 2-book haul, but that wasn't bad at all. So they're both from next year. But they're both things that I very much want to read in their entirety. That Churchill Woman is this thing. A nice echo, a shout out in the title to That Hamilton Woman. Those of you who know your British history will know exactly who That Hamilton Woman is, and that's how she was referred to. That Churchill Woman. That's wonderful to do that, play that game in the title. And Ganges, a history, a biography even, of the River Ganges. Wonderful. Fantastic. So there you go. That is a nice 2-book mail haul that does not approach an hour in length. There you go. So that's easy. So we'll wrap this up for now. And if we get more mail, we'll handle it in a similarly expeditious fashion. Thank you, BookTube.